What is up, guys? My name is Sid Karikin, and we are back on F1 24 Driver Career. This is Season 1, Episode 8 for the Austrian Grand Prix. Coming up. So not only is this a sprint race this weekend in Austria, but it also marks the halfway point of our rookie season in F1 with 2 podiums and an average finishing position of 7th. I'd say we've had a pretty strong start to our young career, but we are coming off a tough race in Spain where we struggled a little bit for pace. If you haven't seen that episode yet, go check it out before you see this one. We're going to run through some extra components for Phil. I guess he wants to check the reliability of all the parts. And Deborah wants us to run through a couple different setups, probably changing the arrow so she can get an idea of its effect. And that's basically all I do in the first practice session is try several different setups, so that'll be an easy one. And Mr. B, we have a bone to pick with you, as we did out-qualify our teammate in the last session, and then you sent Paolo over to tell me I failed, and I thought Karen was going to be the problem. But she just wants us to stress test our gearbox, running through 250 gear shifts in a session, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. That's all we can do for the specialist this week. So let's go take a look at how the rivalries are going. We've outperformed Hulkenberg all season. We beat Logan Sargent, but Hamilton had a really good race in Spain and we very much struggled. So he has the lead in that rivalry. We go check on what upgrades are available. And I decided it was finally time to go with the engine power upgrade. It's a major one. And it'll unlock several ERS upgrades, which we desperately need. And it'll keep us towards the top in the powertrain department. And the powerful engine has really helped us in a lot of races so far this season. It's let us focus our performance upgrades in the chassis and aero departments and not worry too much about the engine up till this point. If we take a look at the standings, Verstappen leads his teammate by 23 points and Alonso a further 13 back. With Red Bull being 1-2 in the driver's standings, they're dominating the constructors at the moment. We're in 6th place with a big lead on 7th and 25 away from Aston, so we're still in striking distance. So my goals for this season as an F1 rookie were to settle into the team, then outperform my teammate. But now I find there's some extra motivation as there's a huge opportunity for us to finish 5th in the constructors. But we're going to need some help from Hulkenberg to do that. Let's see if he can step it up. Let's head to sprint qualifying.
High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
Okay, that's all the checks complete. We're ready to go.
So as we head out onto the track for our second run in SQ1, which turned out to be our best lap of the session, I just want to give EA and Cody some props, as I had complained a little bit in earlier races about how the sprint race rules were messed up. I think particularly in China, when all the other drivers use the softs in SQ1, as we lock up a little bit into the uphill turn 3 hairpin. Anyway, I just wanted to give them credit for fixing it, as sometimes the glitches don't get fixed so fast. So if I'm gonna complain when there's something wrong, I should give them credit when they fix it. And as we come out of the downhill right-hander, we have a little bit of traffic ahead of us. And the AI don't always get out of the way, so I hope they do. Oh, we get caught up on the curb.
P11.
A bit of a tank slapper there off the curb. We managed to hold on to it, and we're still half a second up as we head through turns 7 and 8. The track seems to be evolving fairly quickly because this lap doesn't feel significantly better than my first lap did. As we come through the final right-hander, we're also a bit low on battery as I over-deployed a little bit in sector 1, and for the moment that's good enough for 7th, and we end up in 8th with Norris topping the session. Verstappen and Leclerc are the top 3. No surprise there, as this has always been a very good track to Norris, as both Aston Martins make it through, showing they're not going to give up 5th in the constructors easily. And Hulkenberg's poor qualifying form continues as he finds himself out in 17th. So it looks like it's going to be all on us again to try to score points in the constructors, at least for the sprint race, as it's going to be very difficult for Hulkenberg to come back from 17th all the way up to 8th in the 12 laps or whatever the sprint length is. As we head up the hill towards turn 3, I added 2 clicks of front wing after SQ1 as the front end needed a little bit more bite. Mainly on the downhill right of turn 4 and through the whole infield section of turns 6, 7, and 8. We should have a little bit more battery towards the end of the lap as I was trying to be more conscientious of toggling between full overtake mode and hot lap mode. Just trying to save a little bit of battery for the last part of the lap, sector 3. As we head into turn 6, we stay off the curb this time. And we're able to floor it through turns 7 and 8. And those 2 clicks on the front wing have seriously helped the balance of the car. As this was the first lap we did in this session, I don't have a real delta to compare this lap to, but the lap actually felt really good as we went through it, and that's going to put us in first for the moment. And we actually end up topping the session in SQ2 with Verstappen in second, nearly 4/10ths back, and Lance Stroll in the second Aston Martin is eliminated in 11th.
Okay guys, everyone be aware, the car's ready to go.
And the car actually felt amazing in SQ2. Those 2 clicks of front wing made a massive difference. We'll see if we can put up another impressive lap on the softs. Although I'm very happy that we have pace on the mediums.
And that's just 30 seconds left in the session.
As we run a little bit wide through the first corner. And that puts us about a 1/2 tenth down. A little bit of a lockup through the uphill turn 3, but we manage a pretty good exit, but we're still down on our time through sector 1, and this is the final run we're going to get in this session. As our first lap was only good enough for 7th, we pick up a lot of time on the exit of turn 4 and through the little kink of turn 5, as that's where I made my mistake on my first run. 2.5 tenths up, we're just going to chuck it through turn 7 and 8 and hope for the best. Keeping it pinned to the floor, deploying what little battery we have left. As we head towards the final 2 right-handers, we're going to have to be pin perfect on the entry and exits. Lose a little bit of time through turn 9 as I was a little bit too cautious, as it's so easy to disallow your lap in those 2 corners. We end up 1/10.5 up. And that'll put us in 3rd. On the 2nd row, the lap didn't feel amazing, but I can't argue with those results, as both Red Bulls topped the session, 1-2 in the standings and 1-2 to start the sprint. We'll see if they're allowed to fight, or if Red Bull want to involve some team orders. More important to our race is Alonso is starting in 5th, 2 places behind us, as we'll get a little boost to our rating in the pace, as that was actually a pretty solid qualifying session for us, as we inch closer and closer to a 73 rating. So as we head towards the sprint, it looks like it's going to be clear for the sprint race and for quali. But as we head into the main race, it looks like we're going to have some rain, maybe even heavy rain. Towards the end, that could make it spicy. Let's head to the sprint.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have a Haas, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Stroll, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Albon, Gasly, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Bottas, and Zhou Guanyu. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
So as we get ready on the formation lap, everybody is starting on the medium tires. For a 12-lap sprint, nobody is gambling on the softs. I think with a few more tire wear upgrades, I might actually gamble on the soft.
Launch map is good, but we need to learn the gears, so go into each one when you can. We're going to need some work on the brakes, so put some energy into them and warm the tyres as well, please.
At a shorter track like here in Austria, or if I was in the title fight, I might take a chance.
Radar is clear, weather is looking good for now.
On the faster tire, try to run away early. and the 5 red lights. The Austrian sprint is underway. So we get a lot of wheel spin off the start, and Norris is going to try to challenge us up the inside into the first corner. He manages to pull slightly ahead, but we're side by side on the exit. We're both burning a lot of battery up the hill as we squeeze the McLaren to the inside. He's slightly ahead as we approach turn 3. We manage to outbrake Norris into the hairpin and get a slightly better exit around the outside. We've managed to hold on to third through the start. Further back, there's a lot of battling as they go 2 by 2 down the hill towards turn 4. There's an intense jockeying for position from 12th all the way down to 19th, and Stroll in the second Aston Martin has improved 2 positions up to 9th, and Hulkenberg finishes the pass on Ricciardo, improving up to 14th.
Enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
We have managed to stay in the DRS at Perez. We've had to use a lot of battery to do it, and also maintain that gap to Norris back and forth. As a lap later, our teammate pulls out of the slipstream of Gasly, trying to block Gasly in behind Tsunoda, who doesn't have DRS. Go for the double overtake heading into turn 3. Tsunoda takes the inside and gives Hulkenberg a stout defense. But our teammate has pulled off a huge double overtake, improving up into 12th ahead of us. Perez is getting aggressive on his teammate into turn 3, and they go side by side through the hairpin, allowing us to close in, and this battling is helping us stay close.
Red Bull drivers just moved into first place
without burning too much battery, and Perez is going to go for it again on the downhill turn 4. Verstappen goes defensive, pushing his teammate way to the outside, but Perez will have the inside line going up the hill into turn 6. And I guess we got our answer. Definitely no team orders from Red Bull. They're letting these two fight, as Norris makes a late move on us up the hill on the entry of turn 6, and Alonso is sitting in 5th. Watching first and second and third and fourth go side by side through the infield and the high-speed 7 and 8 corners, and there was a yellow flag, and it's Piastri again. Such bad luck for the second McLaren as Verstappen goes for a renewed attack, trying to retake first from his teammate, and the Red Bulls make contact through turn 1, and that's going to open up a window for us as we're going to go for the lead here on lap 5. Side by side with Verstappen into the turn 3 hairpin. Perez makes a dive up the inside, aggressively trying to get second back. We have the DRS on Verstappen. It's going to force Perez to tuck back in behind us. And behind us, Hamilton is attacking Norris for 4th on the exit of the hairpin. It's all kicking off here in Austria. And a couple laps later, Norris was able to reestablish 4th as we all settled back into a DRS train. But Hamilton is attacking Alonso now, trying to take 5th, as that would help us in the constructors significantly. I'm hoping Hamilton can finish the overtake. The battle rages all the way up to turn 6. They go side by side through the left-hander, but Hamilton's forced to back out. Just behind that battle, the Ferraris are side by side for 7th and 8th as they go through turn 6 side by side, with neither Ferrari wanting to give an inch. Sainz is on the inside for turns 7 and 8. They risk slowing themselves down so much they fall out of Hamilton's DRS as Sainz finally manages to grab P7, but Stroll's not even going to wait for the DRS as he tries to go up the inside of Leclerc, pulling off a very unorthodox overtake into turns 9 and 10. We come through turn 10 at the end of lap 8. We are still in second place as there's a yellow flag for somebody behind, locking up and going off. We managed to stick in Max's DRS. It allowed us to try to recharge the battery. And with 4 laps left, I'm trying to decide when would be the best time to attack, as I really want to go for this win, and the fact that we've been able to hang with the Red Bull that's ahead of us and stay ahead of Perez in 3rd has given me the confidence that we might be able to win this race if we time overtaking Verstappen correctly. 1 lap later, we're attacking Verstappen into turn 3. We're side by side as we go through the hairpin. Max pushes us a little bit wide onto the exit curb, giving Verstappen the better exit, but we'll have the DRS heading down the hill towards turn 4, and Perez tucks in behind us, looking to join the fray for the lead, and we've used the second DRS zone to just pull ahead of Verstappen, legitimately taking the lead of the sprint race. As Perez pulls side by side with his teammate, we ran wide on the exit, allowing Verstappen back through, and Perez is going to try to force his way back through on the inside, and he makes contact, nearly spinning us on the entrance to turn 6. As we go side by side through turns 7 and 8, we're able to just stay ahead, burning a lot of battery, and Perez makes contact with us again, and I have to admit I was getting really frustrated with Perez at this point. Fairly or unfairly, I thought he should have backed out of the move on turn 6, as there was nowhere for me to go with Verstappen on the outside. And on the penultimate lap, we make an audacious dive up the inside of Verstappen into turn 4. It was a late move and very aggressive, but at this point I was really still pissed off about Perez on the last lap.
Mate, final lap. Keep your concentration and let's bring it home.
And it wasn't the smartest move, as it gave Verstappen DRS. As we go through the first corner, I was going to try a switchback on Verstappen, but we had a snap of oversteer. And now that we're low on battery, Perez goes through on the outside heading into turn 3. We make a late move up the inside of Perez as he left the inside wide open. We had a little bit of a lockup and banged tires, and Perez is going to come back at us down the hill towards turn 4. Perez gets past and cuts across us very aggressively. We wait till the last moment and dive back up the inside of turn 4. We have a little bit of a lockup and drift wide on the exit, giving Perez a chance at the switchback. Trying to go back up the outside into turn 6. Perez trying the same move that his teammate pulled off several laps ago. As we're still side by side with half a lap to go, we give him the room on the outside. We're able to pull back into second on the exit of turn 8. But our battery is completely depleted. We're going to have to go defensive into turn 9. But that leaves Perez vulnerable to the McLaren. Norris makes an aggressive dive up the inside of Perez, and he nicks the podium from the Red Bull in the dying moments of the race. Verstappen wins. We claim second, and Norris pulls a smash and grab on the Red Bull in the final corners to take third.
Come on, we're on the podium. Good job this weekend. That's a great drive. Thank you.
That was a very intense race as we get driver of the day, and that was just the sprint. Our teammate ends up down in 14th. Stroll does grab a point for Aston Martin in 8th, so we only gained 2 points on Aston Martin in the Constructors, but we were able to grab second, a really good result, and showed that we actually have good pace this weekend. Let's see if we can keep it going. Let's head in to qualifying.
High up in the mountains here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
Not sure how we're going to top the drama and the intensity
All set. We're ready to go. So let's get the car out onto the track.
that was that sprint race. That was craziness. But let's get into qualifying now. We have to stay on top of our game, not get ahead of ourselves. We still have to qualify well if we want any chance of repeating what we pulled off in that sprint race, or hopefully even better, because I've gotten better at managing the battery around the qualifying lap, trying to use overtake until I get 8th gear, and then trying to save a little bit of battery using hot lap for the rest of the straight. Although we're running low here as we head down the hill, we're half a tenth down on our early lap. This is the final lap we're going to get through Q1, as there's only a minute 40 left, and we won't have time to recharge the battery for another push lap, as we found a tenth and a half through turn 6, and another 10 through turn 7 and 8. So a lot like sprint quali, it's taking us a couple laps to really get dialed in, or dialed back into the circuit in this case. And this lap is good enough to put us up to 5th, which should be enough to see us through. And it is. We end up in 9th, with Leclerc topping the session. And the Aston Martin's looking quick in 5th and 7th, with Stroll being the lead Aston. That's a disconcerting thought. So as we head on to our Q2 lap, the only changes I made after the sprint and before the qualifying session was to re-add those 2 clicks of front wing, give us a little more front end to really help us bite into the high-speed corners. We head up the hill to turn 3. A little frustrated that our teammate was eliminated in Q1 again, but we really need to nail this lap because points are more than likely gonna just be on us to get. And to be fair to Hulkenberg, I'm not sure if I'm out driving this car or if he's not living up to the potential of the car. I kind of think it's a mix of both. I think podiums in this car is pushing it to its limit, but I also think that it's pretty easily capable of points, especially now at this point in its development. It is very circuit dependent. However, at circuits like this, when we have the opportunity and the car is performing as well as it is, we really need Hulkenberg to be putting up points. As we come through the final corners, let's see how our lap is. We don't have a delta yet. And just like sprint quali, we pop it into provisional pole. We end up in third, but the top 5 are covered by barely a 10th. And a surprise with the Gasly in that Alpine making Q3. Russell gets knocked out in 12th in the Mercedes, and Piastri's woeful weekend continues as he's out in 15th and his teammates up in 2nd.
Okay, let's go.
So the pressure is on as we start our only lap of Q3. There's 2 minutes left, so we have to nail this one. We did 1 banker lap on used softs, mainly so we'd have a banker to compare our lap to. Half a 10th up as we head up the hill. Managing the battery, which has added a whole nother element to this game compared to last year. 10th up as we go through turn 3. Based on how close the times were in Q2, a half a 10th could make a massive difference in the starting grid, but based on how chaotic the sprint race was, and then you're going to throw in rain towards the end of the race, I do believe there's going to be opportunities to move forward, which gives me hope for Hulkenberg. We go purple through sector 1 and green through sector 2, 2.5 tenths up. As we head towards the final 2 corners, I actually managed the battery to perfection on this lap, balancing on the knife edge of at or just above 10%. We're gonna dump the rest in overtake mode as we approach the line. And it's good enough for 4th. And that is where we end up starting tomorrow, with Lando Norris putting it on pole, Verstappen in 2nd, and we'll be on the 2nd row, starting right next to our constructors' rival of Aston Martin and Alonso. So not only is there supposed to be rain towards the end of the race, it could be heavy rain. Could we see X-Sweat tires for the first time? Could get spicy. Let's head to the grid.
This is it then, race day in Spielberg for this year's Austrian Grand Prix. Not long to go before our drivers hurtle off the line and into the first turn, the Niki Lauda curve. It was renamed in 2019 in memory of one of Formula One's most beloved figures. It's one of the shortest laps on the calendar today then, with 7 rights and just 3 lefts, making up the 10 corners of this high-speed circuit. Turn 2 is barely a corner at all. They'll be flat out through there, a left-hand kink into the uphill braking zone of turn 3. Turns 1, 3 and 4 are all potential opportunities to overtake. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, a Haas, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Stroll, Gasly, Albon, Russell, Ricciardo, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Sargent, Bottas, and Zhou Guanyu. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So Perez starting down in 15th. That could have huge implications for the Drivers' Championship, as his teammates starting all the way up in 2nd. Red Bull are gambling that Perez can move forward with the 3 DRS zones.
Clutch bite is good, gearbox is responding normally. Make sure to warm up the tyres and brakes. Warm the tyres and brakes throughout the lap, please.
And I'm gambling as well that I can take these hards all the way to the rain, and all the drivers that are on mediums will have to make an extra pit stop. It's the kind of gamble that could hand us the win.
Good parking there, mate. Now we need to make sure we get a great launch as the race starts.
And the Austrian Grand Prix is underway. We get a lot of wheel spin off the start as Leclerc gets a much better start on his mediums, and the second Ferrari of Sainz pinches us into the inside of turn 1. And the second Ferrari slides through, dropping us all the way down to 6th. And this was part of the risk that we took starting on the hards. As Sainz takes the inside line, we're going to go around the outside of the Ferrari and try to slide past Verstappen in the Red Bull as well. As we're side by side heading down the hill with the Red Bull, as Leclerc and Alonso are battling ahead of us as well. Verstappen has the inside line. Oh, we run wide, get on the gravel, and Verstappen is through. And now we're going to have to try to defend from the Ferrari of Sainz.
Fine, let's try and move forward.
We drift wide, he's still there, but he backs out of it. I tried to give him plenty of room, as I didn't want another incident like we had with Perez in the sprint race at that very corner. And as we head down the hill, the Ferrari is trying to challenge Alonso for second, with Verstappen, the sprint winner, lurking just behind, waiting for an opportunity where he can attack. As they're still side by side as we head into turn 6, and all of this battling for second is allowing Norris to run away with the lead early in the race, and it only took Verstappen one lap to find that opportunity to move up into third just behind Alonso. So he makes Leclerc pay for squabbling with Alonso on the last lap. Verstappen's attacking Alonso as we head up the hill towards the hairpin. Leclerc is tucked in behind. Sainz is attacking us for 5th, but gets boxed in behind his teammate as we throw an attacker on the outside of Leclerc. We're behind him for the moment, but it helped in our defense against Sainz, and we got a better exit than Leclerc, so we've got to run on him down the hill. We're going to go up the inside into turn 4. We're able to improve up into 4th, and Verstappen has gotten past Alonso for 2nd. Takes Alonso a couple laps, but he's going to attack Verstappen around the outside of the hairpin, and the race thus far has had an interesting ebb and flow as we watch the Aston Martin overtake Verstappen back for 2nd, as I'm trying not to be too aggressive until those mediums wear out, as this battle has raged for an entire lap now, allowing Norris to pull a huge gap. He's barely in the shot right there, and I decided at this point that these two were slowing us down so much with their constant back and forth that it was time to make an aggressive move up the inside. We got through on Alonso as he was so focused on Verstappen
2 cars at once, really well done.
that he wasn't expecting us to go up the inside as well. As we give Verstappen a squeeze to the outside as we take the inside now, and we have finished off a huge double overtake, moving ourselves up into 2nd. But on the very next lap, the Red Bull is coming back at us with DRS. We're gonna go side by side through the first corner. We have a big snap of oversteer over the curb as Verstappen didn't give us a lot of room on the inside. That could put us at risk to Alonso in 4th, but we're gonna go back at Verstappen, and it's his turn to go defensive into the hairpin. But we will be the ones with DRS as we head down towards turn 4. As Verstappen was ahead just before the last corner, trying to save a little bit of battery here, but Verstappen makes a little bit of contact as he forces his way to the inside and retakes 2nd. I didn't fight him too hard. I didn't want to make ourselves vulnerable to Alonso. Checking in on our teammate, who's down in 17th, but he makes an aggressive move on Piastri in the McLaren and Albon of the Williams, not wanting to be upstaged. Hulkenberg's pulled off his own double overtake. We've taken a couple laps now behind Verstappen, recharging the battery, but I think now's the time to attack. We go side by side through the hairpin. Championship leader doesn't want to give the position up easily, but at this point in the race, I think the hards have become the better tire to be on. And the other question is, when will the rain arrive? Because I need all the medium runners to come in for a pit stop before it gets here for our strategy to really be effective. And a couple laps later, apparently there's enough life in those mediums of Verstappen's to move back into 2nd. And with so many DRS zones around this track, it's just so hard to break that 1 second gap and pull away. But on lap 16, Verstappen's coming in for his stop, as is Norris from the lead. So with most of the leaders having made their stops now,
Verstappen's in the pits.
we need the rain to start here shortly if we want our strategy to work out well. And it's only 1 lap later that the first drops of rain have started to fall. Not hard enough to come in for the inters yet, but it looks like our strategy could work out perfectly for us.
Nice work. That's why I love working with you. Smashed it.
We might have a chance at smash and grabbing our first win of the season with the 500 IQ strategy. The rain is really starting to pick up, but George Russell is in the pits, and he's gone to the intermediates. He's gonna undercut us with our own strategy. We nearly lose the car heading into the pit lane. At the end of that same lap, the track got treacherous very quickly, and it looks like the team and I got it wrong. On the correct lap to come in, we should have boxed last lap for the intermediates. So as long as we can get a clean pit stop, we should have a chance at the lead, and we have a slow pit stop. And the rear right was really slow getting on.
Okay, there seems to have been a problem attaching the right rear wheel. We need to try and put that behind us, and let's finish this race strong. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops.
Oh, and we watched Russell go by on the pit exit. Russell comes out 2.7 seconds ahead of us. Verstappen has spun it into the hairpin. The track is treacherous even on the intermediate tires. And there's a huge traffic jam up the hill now. There's initially a green flag as that spin happened right behind us. Verstappen has now given us a huge gap to Norris and Alonso behind. That'll give us the margin to really push hard to catch up to Russell.
Okay, and that's
No,
a red flag. Red flag.
no,
Keep the delta
you've got to be
positive.
kidding me.
Let's have you straight to the pit
That
lane,
just
please.
ruined our entire strategy for the weekend, starting on the hard, saving a whole pit stop. And as we restart the race, we're all on extreme wets. As the rain is bucketing down now, we get a lot of wheel spin off the start. Russell goes defensive up the inside. We're gonna drift to the racing line, but I gotta really feel out the grip here. I don't have much experience on the extreme wet tires. Russell maintains the lead, and he looks very comfortable on these full wets. As Norris moves up into third, we have to go defensive, as Norris is challenging us immediately up the outside. We lose a little bit of momentum, nearly running into the back of Russell. One lap later, Norris is taking a run at us down the hill into turn 4. Give the McLaren a little squeeze to the inside, but Norris hasn't given up the attack as we head up the hill to turn 6. And Alonso looks like he wants to get involved in this as well. And it's a little bit of deja vu from the sprint race, but Alonso is able to squeeze up the inside of Norris with a beautiful move, improving up to third. And Alonso doesn't take long to attack us. As we head up the hill to turn 3, Alonso comes by us easily, cuts across to the inside to go defensive. We're able to maintain the outside line.
Okay, mate, we need to save some ERS, so let's use all the techniques you know about to charge it up.
Yeah, I can't really afford to save ERS at the moment, Mark, as we're battling our closest constructors rival at the moment, struggling to find the pace we had in the dry. As Norris locks up and hydroplanes down the hill through turn 10, that drops him all the way back to 6th. Shows how easy it is to make a mistake in these conditions. As we battle Alonso through the first corner, and our dream of a 500 IQ strategy, giving us the race win with a huge gap, has just evaporated. As Verstappen in the Red Bull, who brought out the red flag in the first place, is gonna make it 3 wide with us and the Aston Martin up the hill. Alonso smartly backs out of that, giving us a window to just stay ahead. But we have a big slide off the curb of turn 8, and that's going to give Verstappen a window to try to attack up the inside into turn 9. The Red Bull decides to back out of it, citing that discretion is the better part of valor. A very un-Max-like move, but it did force us into a bit of a mistake through turn 10, which will give Max another run on us as we go up the hill. Side by side through the hairpin, this time we go defensive to the inside, and I should have known better, as this time it's the Red Bull who gets the better exit using the outside line. Verstappen cuts to the inside down the hill towards turn 4. He squeezes us nearly onto the grass down the hill, but in doing that he left the inside open. We're gonna make a late lunge through that gap and recapture second. And just behind us, Hamilton and Alonso are battling over 4th and 5th. Rain certainly hasn't chilled anyone's aggression, and the two old rivals remain side by side through turn 7. Hamilton getting a slightly better exit and moving himself up into 4th. A lap and a half later, the Mercedes are showing that they have excellent pace in the wet, as Hamilton has got himself past Verstappen and up onto the podium. Now he has us in his sights, trying to give Mercedes a 1-2. Russell has pulled a nearly 11-second gap. He's been untouchable since the rain started falling. With only 2 laps left in this race, Verstappen is trying to reclaim his place on the podium, and Alonso in that Aston Martin is lurking very close behind him. This might not be decided until the last lap. Now it's going to be a matter of who can manage these extreme wet tires better until the end of the race, as the rain has significantly lightened up and these heavy wet tires have started to overheat, as we are searching for the wet parts of the track on every straight, trying to cool them down before we hit the corners. We check in on our teammate, who is only one place away from recovering from 17th into the top 10 and grabbing a point. But he makes a big mistake over the curb and spins it, creating a huge traffic jam in the hairpin of turn 3, pushing a little bit too hard on full wets when the track is definitely ready for the intermediates. It's an easy mistake to make. We head down the hill in turn 4, Verstappen close behind us. Oh, we have a big tank slapper off the curb. Very nearly do exactly what our teammate did, and that gives Verstappen a window to attack, and he turns across right into us, making contact, which allows Hamilton to slide up into third.
Debris. Fortunately, the marshals have managed to clear it up in time, and there are so far no plans for a safety car.
And the Mercedes was in the right place at the right time. Moving on to the podium, on to the final lap, we're gonna have to defend all the way to the end, as Hamilton tries to make a run on us for second, as we drift to the inside, towards the downhill section of turn 4, trying to get off the racing line and find as much moisture for these tires as we can. We have managed to hold on to second, and now we just have to keep it clean through the infield one more time. We are running a little bit lower on battery than I would like for that straight on the exit of turn 8. Russell, coming through the final corners, has a little twitch of the rear end through turn 9, but the Mercedes driver is going to come through and win the Austrian Grand Prix. And 5/10 is actually one of the bigger gaps we've had since the red flag restart. As we come through the final corners, we're going to put our Haas on the podium for the third time this season, with Hamilton rounding it out in third.
We've seen a brilliant display of the Russell hustle. It's George Russell who wins.
They had to be decisive with their overtaking today as they worked their way through the field. And those kind of race victories are so enjoyable because it's not just like winning from the front. They really had to work for it today.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners.
So a huge day for Mercedes as Russell wins his second race of the season, his first since Japan, and he becomes the only other driver besides Verstappen to win more than one race this season. And we got close. We had the strategy call correct. We just had bad luck with the red flag. But we do score the most points out of anyone with 2 second-place finishes in the race and the sprint. So that'll help us in the constructors race, chasing down Aston Martin. And big props to Zhou, as he was able to grab a point in that kick Sauber, which has been pretty dismal since the game update. And in the driver's standings, Perez falls 13 points further back of Verstappen for the lead, making the deficit 36 at the halfway point of the season. Not insurmountable, but Verstappen's got one hand on the chokehold. And in the constructors, we move within 15 points of Aston Martin for 5th. We move 1 point ahead of Hamilton in our points rivalry. A pretty solid recovery after our difficulties in Spain. And all of our ratings get a pretty big boost after a good performance in Austria. I have to say that was by far the best the car has felt on any track this season. And I'm still a little bit disappointed as the race win felt within our grasp for the first time this season, as the team leans more and more our way in the recognition, as Hulkenberg had another difficult weekend, and we've gotten our manufacturing expert Phil up to level 3 before we managed to get any of the other specialists to level 2. So the new perk is that the failure chance of our upgrades is reduced by 30%, which is actually really solid, as we're running reduced resource points, so any failed upgrades cost us a lot of time and resource points we don't really have. Anyway guys, that's all I got for this week. I'll see you next week in the UK for Silverstone. Goodbye.